There was a time in running my own web agency made me feel really sad. And I don't really talk about this that much because I don't like feeling sad, but I want to share this with you. Maybe you're in a similar situation, and I want to share with you 3 steps. Really, they're more than steps. They're like shifts. They're like transformational shifts that really took me out of this sad zone. And so if you're new to the channel, by the way, I'm Lee Blue. I've run a web agency for over 20 years and shown hundreds of other web designers how to do it too through my DoubleStack mentoring program. But there was a time, I'll tell you why I felt sad about the business. I was making like $70,000 a year, which is pretty decent, but I was working way more than 40 hours a week. And that was at all the time where my wife, we were having our first baby, and so she was staying home with the baby, and it was a single income family, and I felt like I was missing out on a lot because I was just working so many hours. And I thought, well, if I'm going to be working so many hours, I should at least be making more than $70,000 a year. And that just I just felt sad about all of that. But I also felt anxious because I would look at my calendar and I would think, well, I don't really know how to get more leads in. So I don't know how to make more money from that. Instead, I would rely on referrals almost entirely, like word of mouth referrals from my friends and past clients and stuff like that. And I couldn't really control the flow of those leads. In fact, I would even get mad at my friends for not sending me the leads that they said they were going to. So that was pretty crazy, right? Why would I get mad at my friends for not doing my marketing for free for me, right? But I didn't know what else to do. And so I'd feel a lot of anxiety over that. And from 2 angles. On one angle, I'd look at my calendar, I've got no leads in the pipeline, and that would make me feel anxious. On the other hand, I didn't want to go out and get the leads either. Like I didn't want to go to networking groups or Chamber of Commerce meetings, BNI groups or whatever, because I didn't know what to say. And that made me feel anxious too. And so I was anxious about not having leads and anxious about going to get leads. So it was a dilemma, right? Like no matter what I do, it was a mess. So I did these 3 things that completely changed everything. So it took me from about $70,000 a year to making over $200,000 a year. So a huge financial shift without working any more hours because I didn't have any more hours to work in the first place. But also it changed the emotional side. Like I didn't feel anxious, and instead I started to feel really excited and happy to move forward and talk to people. And so the 3 things that I did. The first one was I decided to learn a niche. And because I thought about, well, why do I feel nervous going out to networking groups, or what would make me anxious about that? And the problem was, so I actually did do these things. And so I would just go to BNI groups feeling anxious. And then I was like, well, how long am I going to be able to sustain this? This kind of exhausts me. It's terrible. But the reason that I felt anxious about it was because I didn't know what people were going to ask me. And for whatever reason, it seems like normal people, like not people like you and me, like not web designers, but like other people, like normal people, when you say to them that you do web design, suddenly it seems like that just opens up all of the doors that have anything remotely to do with the internet at all. So someone would say, oh, my printer's not working. Can you fix that? Or I don't know how to get access to my email from my phone. Can you look at that? Or like there just anything that had anything to do with the internet would start coming my way. And that would make me feel anxious because I didn't want to say, well, I don't know how to do that, because then I feel like I look stupid or something. And so I thought, well, what if I just focused on a niche? Like, what if instead of saying I just generically do web design and marketing, what if I said I specialize in marketing for local service businesses? That's it. And so if someone said, hey, well, I can't figure out how to get my email or how to get my printer to work, I'd be like, oh, well, let me see if I can refer you to somebody who's really into networking, because I focus on marketing for local service businesses. And that's, printer is not that. And so by focusing on a niche, I drastically limit the number of inbound questions that I feel like I have to answer. And so that was a really important point. The other important point of focusing on the niche is I could begin to figure out, well, what does my niche really need? Because they probably don't need to fix their printers. They probably don't need to fix all their email addresses on their phones and stuff like that. They probably need to figure out how to get more calls, how to get more visibility, how to build trust, how to build authority, stuff like that, so that they actually get more clients in their business. And so that was step 1, focusing on the niche so that I could limit down the number of inbound questions that I had to answer to just what I was actually good at. And how do I actually figure out what my clients want? Because that was the first step to actually getting leads. And it was such a bizarre realization, because isn't it obvious that if you want to get leads, you offer people what they want? right? Like that seems so surface level obvious, but it wasn't to me at the time, because I would say technical things like, do you want a faster website? Do you want, do you want better SEO experiences or whatever? Like just all these technical things. And people don't really want that. What they actually want are calls, consistent leads, more revenue, launch a new location, stuff like that. They want the measurable business outcomes. And so by focusing on a niche, I could actually start making a list of things that people actually wanted, so that when I was going to make my website or go to a networking event or send emails or post stuff on social media, I could talk about stuff that people actually wanted, not the connect the dots stuff. Like connect the dots is like, I present these dots, like web design, ads, SEO, things like that. And then the client sort of draws the picture themselves to figure out if that's actually the picture of what they want. And so instead of the connect the dots idea, I just tell them like big 4K high resolution display of this is what I can help you provide in terms of the outcomes that people want. And I couldn't do that before because I didn't have a niche. So everybody wanted all the outcomes. But by focusing specifically on how to do marketing for local service businesses, that really helped a lot. So that was step one. Then step two was, okay, well, now that I know what the results are, the outcomes are that people want, how do I do it? Like what services and tools can I provide? And so I came up with this concept called the SMAC pack. I know it sounds funny, but it's really helpful. So SMAC stands for stuff. So the S, it stands for like support, which would be like hosting, maintenance, backups and updates and stuff like that. So like the technical support level of this ongoing relationship with my clients. The M stands for marketing. And the marketing is pretty much like traffic. Like how can I bring in traffic? Like ads, SEO, content marketing, backlinks. Like how do I drive traffic to and visibility to the client's website? The A stands for authority, which is like building social proof, getting reviews, case studies, testimonials, stuff that makes people feel like that this client really knows what they're doing. And then you get to the C, and that stands for capture. And that means I want to capture leads, capture clients, nurture leads into clients. Like, how do I actually do that? And then the K stands for keep, which is how do I keep my clients active? Or how do I keep my clients' customers coming back more often? So basically customer loyalty. So that is a SMAC pack. And so I started to give SMAC packs to every single one of my clients, not just websites. And that really changed everything. And one of the things that I think it really made a difference for, not only financially, because I basically tripled the value of my clients without having to do more work, because I took away all the gaps between the projects. I just kept working with the clients forever. And so that could take a $3,000 project and turn it into an over a $10,000 client, which, by the way, is when you have this little DoubleStack trophy that I send to people when they start landing $10,000 clients by offering these SMAC packs to their clients or whatever. But here's what also happened by having the SMAC pack. I could suddenly demonstrate that I was in fact an authority in my niche without having to say that I was an authority in my niche. I would show them that. Like, for example, I would say things like, did you know that there's a 7-day traffic spike whenever you post something on your Google business profile? So you can't just post something and have traffic forever, but like every time you do a post, you get about a 7-day traffic spike. And most people that are like normal people, like regular business owners, they don't know that. They just think, okay, well, if I set up my Google profile, I can leave it there. Maybe it'll get some reviews or whatever, but I can just kind of set it and forget it. But just by saying, hey, well, you actually get about a week's worth of traffic. So why don't we do a weekly post at a minimum to your Google business profile? Because people don't think about it. People think about Facebook and Instagram, but they don't tend to think about posting on their profiles. And if you are interested in getting traffic from Google, I think it's a good idea, right? So I would say something like that. Or I'd say something like, did you know you can get a big traffic boost for both your Google business profile and your website simply by synchronizing your name, address, and phone number across both channels? Or like anywhere you have a citation, maybe if it's even on Yelp or something. Any discrepancy between your name, address, phone number, or even your hours of operation can cause people and Google to not really know if you're open or where you're located. And so just anytime you put that stuff, your name, address, and phone number out there, just make it exactly the same. And a lot of times people will have like tiny discrepancies. Like they'll say their name of their street will be on a terrace, and sometimes they'll spell out terrace all the way out, and other times it'll be abbreviated TER. Well, just make it consistent. And so I would say stuff like that, and people are like, wow, I didn't even think about that. And that's a huge win. Or another one would be the proximity of backlinks. You know how everybody wants to get backlinks for SEO to kind of boost your domain authority and everything? Well, domain authority is important, but for local marketing, because remember back in step one, I'm saying I'm focused on marketing local service, but they don't necessarily even have to be local to me, but their customers are local to them. That's my specialty. And so I'd say, well, the proximity of your backlinks makes a difference. So if you can get a link from your Chamber of Commerce or a Little League baseball team or just anything, like anything that would be like a neighborhood blog or something like that can link to your local business website, that's really important in terms of local marketing. So I'm telling people these things, and by saying them, like, well, I wouldn't have never even thought about that. Like you're obviously an expert in the niche because you know these things. So I don't even have to say I'm an expert. People just walk away realizing that I've really studied this and I know how to help people in that space. So then I get to the third step. And the third step was where it really transformed me emotionally. Like the first two steps really helped me figure out who's my audience, how do I get the smack pack. That financially transformed everything because of the recurring revenue. And then I could actually begin to price my work based on the results my clients were going to get rather than how much time it took me to implement. Oh, I almost forgot. So I made this recurring revenue value pricing calculator that does this exact thing. So basically I made these smack packs and then I figured, well, what should I charge for those? And so I'll put a link in the description so you can see it. But basically, I coded up this value pricing calculator into a Google Sheet, and I'll just email you a link to it so you can try it out. But you put in your costs, but you also put in what you expect your clients to get from the marketing that you're doing. And then instead of charging based on how long it takes to build, like instead of having the price be based on the implementation cost, the value of the project is based on the value to the client. And then you can charge a percentage of that. And of course, the floor of the price, like the least amount that you can charge is your implementation costs. So what that means is by using the value pricing calculator, you'll be able to charge significantly more than you otherwise would if you were just charging for time and materials. So I'll stick a link in that. Try it out. I think you'll love it. It's a huge game changer, and it literally more than tripled my revenue. That's how I went from like $70,000 to over $200,000 a year simply by changing how I price things. But here's the third thing. The third thing is the belief stack. And this is so a minute ago we were talking about how I didn't want to go out to these networking events and I didn't really know what to say. I felt anxious about going out. But when I had this belief stack, that transformed my attitude from feeling nervous and anxious and scared or fear into excitement. And it's interesting, like one of the things that I've learned is fear and excitement are basically the exact same emotion. The only difference between fear and excitement is what the outcome is. Like if you feel like the outcome is going to be bad, then you have fear. If you feel like the outcome is going to be good, then you have excitement. That's why people ride roller coasters, right? Like you create a scary environment, but you're not going to get hurt, so the outcome is going to be good, so it's exciting and fun. And that's what happened with this belief stack. So the way that the belief stack works is I went back to step 2 at the smack pack, and I looked at all the different services that I was going to offer. And then in my belief stack, I would just say, well, I'm going to do this one thing. Like I'm going to do weekly posts on your Google business profile, and that's going to get you more traffic and visibility on the profile. I'm going to help you get reviews. I'm going to get you backlinks that are close proximity to where your business is. Like all of these different things that I know make a huge difference. And I also know that just garden variety web designers aren't even thinking about these things. And so I'm building up my belief in the solution. So one of the problems I did not have was self-confidence. Like I've always been really good at coding and have like a 3.9 GPA and magna cum laude and just did all kinds of huge projects. I had this huge $3.5 million medical record platform project. So I've never felt like I couldn't code up the right solution. I was only concerned about whether or not the solution was the right solution for the client. Like, are they asking me to do the right thing? Because whatever you ask me to do, I can do it, but maybe you're asking me for something that's not going to work for you. And that's where I began to feel a little bit of anxiety, meaning like, what if I take somebody's money and I build what they asked for, but they asked me for the wrong thing and therefore it doesn't work and now everything falls apart. And then maybe even they're mad at me for it. And so I didn't want to do that. So the belief stack is really what eradicated that source of anxiety, because I would look and say, like, I know that if you do these things, it's so much better than not doing those things. And so I would look at it. So like how God made the world and all that stuff. And he's like, well, he made the earth and the moon and the stars. And like every time something was made, he's like, yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. And then he looks back at the whole thing. He's like, that was very good. I was like, I bet it was great, right? Like you're just looking at all that stuff and you can just say, what I have created is awesome. It's kind of that same vibe where I'm looking back at all of the things that I've added into the smack pack and the solution at large, and I feel really good about it. And so if I believe in it, now I can share my belief in my solution with my clients. Whereas if I didn't do that, and before I made this transformation, I wasn't doing this, I didn't have the confidence. So how is my client supposed to get confidence from me if I didn't have the confidence to begin with? But by having the belief stack, I actually feel excited now, because now when I go out to these meetings, I feel excited. It's like one of the big shifts mentally for me was in the beginning, before I did this 3-step process that we just talked about, I felt like when I went out in public, like to a BNI group or something, like a networking event, I was trying to get approval from people. And now I don't really care about that. I already have the approval. Basically, I know that this, like the belief stack is what gives me the approval. And so now I'm just giving support. So my mentality shifted from trying to get approval to giving support and like trying to love and support the people in my life. And then I felt excited about it because I knew for a fact that if they did the things that I was recommending, it would have a positive impact on their business. Now you can't like to the penny like calculate exactly what the positive impact is going to be, but it's a lot better than not doing these things. And so I would feel so excited to be able to go out and share. And then of course, now that I'm going out to sharing, I'm going to networking events and I feel excited about the opportunities and I know what to say and I've got my niche, I've got my solution, I've got my belief stack. Then I was looking forward to going out, and then my calendar started filling up, and then I started to do the work with the Smack Pack and the recurring revenue, and that's why everything suddenly changed. It was awesome. So it completely revolutionized the entire business, and so like the fear turned into excitement. It became fun to talk to people, and it was awesome. So anyway, check that out and see what you think. Don't forget to check out the value pricing calculator. I'm going to throw in a bonus as well for the lead lab. So if you want to, once you figure out how to do the value pricing, you can find a bunch of different ways to get organic leads. In fact, my favorite one, so the lead lab is an 8-video kind of step-by-step kind of, I guess it's like a mini course on how to get leads organically so you don't have to buy ads. But if you only check out one of the 8 videos, check out the one on the advanced Google search. You'll be blown away at how many local businesses that you can find simply by doing advanced Google searches for free. And then you can message them and kind of start the conversation that way. So check that out. But then if you're wondering, well, what services should I put in the Smack Pack? Check this video out here. Right? It's a whole list of services. I think you'll find this to be like the jackpot of recurring revenue web design services. So check that out. I'll see you in a minute.